beautiful, and thank you for clicking on today's video. As we are jumping fresh into 2023, as per usual, I was reflecting on the previous year of 2022 in a lot of ways, including some of my best and worst purchases of the year. I'm typically very critical about what I spend my money on, whether it's just a few dollars or a few $100s, so let's get into my best buys of 2022. So number one on the list, I'd also like to say thank you for, because the reason I bought this instead of something much more expensive and much more unnecessary was because of one of my followers on TikTok suggesting so, kind of helping me frame my mindset against like a need versus a want. And that is my new Cutco knife. So I have two Cutco knives. This is one that I've been using all the time. I inherited it from my mom. My family's a big Cutco family. They're really good knives in my opinion if you're like a home cook, maybe not if you're a professional cook. But I got this one along with a few other random extra knives that my mom had. It wasn't a full knife block. And for that reason, I had it in my mind that I needed a full knife block. A kitchen is not complete without a full knife block. Let me explain that I am a home cook, and I do cook, I think, a lot more than the average American, between 1 to 3 meals a day, depending upon the day and if I haven't meal prepped or whatever it may be. But I am, in my heart and soul, not a Gordon Ramsay. I am very much a home cook that's trying to get it done with like the least amount of dishes possible and not having things be overly complicated a majority of the time. With that in mind, I still, for some reason, felt like my kitchen couldn't be complete without like an official knife block that has like the bread knife and the cheese knife and the paring knife and the blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, even though I have some of those knives in my kitchen, I was always defaulting to this and only ever using those if this one was in the dishwasher or if it was for something really specific like a bread knife, because that's obviously something you want to do with like a serrated knife. But there was somebody in my comments on TikTok when I was talking about like fantasy purchases I wanted to spend money on in the future, and I mentioned a knife block to the tune of like $900. Very good quality. I believe it was a German-made brand, really super high quality. Professional chefs use these knives all around the world. And somebody in my comments was like, well, do you even really need that many knives? Like, you're a minimalist after all, right? Like, are you hosting like extravagant dinner parties, or do you tend to just defer to your favorite knife anyway? And I was kind of like, well, damn. I have that mentality about almost everything in my life, but for some reason it didn't apply to my knife block. So what I did instead is I went to Costco and I got another Cutco chef knife. It looks a little bit different because Cutco has redesigned the like style since this one was purchased and given to me. But now I have two chef's knives. I use them pretty interchangeably. I run the dishwasher every other night, so 2 has been enough for me and all of my chopping needs. This is a very good all-purpose knife. Again, really good for the home cook. Probably wouldn't recommend it for a professional. But that being said, the reason I really like Cutco over some other knives is Cutco knives are dishwasher safe. So this definitely top 5 of greatest purchases of 2022. And now I'm going to stop waving these knives around before YouTube demonetizes this video. Number 2 is a non-tangible item, and I think something that I've talked about a lot and also really believe in is spending your money on experiences over stuff when you can. So for that reason, this definitely made it into the top 3, probably top 1 of money that I spent during 2022. And that is on, it was between like 14 and 18 flights. Off the top of my head, I'm not exactly remembering how many flights I took, but during the summer of 2022, just before my husband and I picked up our puppy, we went to a couple different countries all throughout Europe with some friends of ours. It was a 3-week trip, and I've posted quite a few videos in relation to that trip that I will go ahead and leave linked down below, including how I packed for that trip with just a backpack, etc., etc. But that being said, I was on, in that trip, probably, like I said, between 14 and 18 different flights, just sort of going from one place to the other. We had a loose plan of some of the areas we wanted to go, but we were kind of planning each day during the evening of the day we had just completed. So we would go like tour all over Rome and then get back to our Airbnb or hotel, and then we would be there like trying to plan the next day. For the most part, there were a couple things we planned in advance just because of like scheduling. Like we had to plan in advance going to see Auschwitz in Poland because you need scheduled tickets and there was limited availability. But that being said, there was a lot of like bebopping back and forth. So many flights, in fact, that I actually got like a very bad sinus infection and I had to go to a hospital. What country was I in when I went to that hospital? Prague. I was in Prague, the Czech Republic. By the way, very interesting experience. I may or may not tell that story later. But all of these flights and all of the money spent during that trip was accumulated to like super fun memories, absorbing culture, eating food. I didn't do much shopping, mostly because I'm not a big shopper, but also I had no space in my bag to do so. But it was really a wonderful trip that I'm so blessed and happy that I got to do, and that was very much money well spent in 2022. The really cool thing specifically about all of these flights is some of these flights, like the ones that were between 40 minutes and an hour and a half, some of these flights were like 30 euro, which I don't understand how you can have flights going all throughout Europe for that cheap, but I can't make it to like the next state over without it being at least $250. I don't really know how that works, but accumulatively, money well spent, like I said. Next one on the list is very near and dear to my heart, and that is my one and only pair of sandals. They are a pair of Birkenstocks that are like a strappy sandal, and they are my color nude. And I'm gonna go ahead and put these down. So a couple years ago, I did a declutter of my shoes where I talked about how I didn't like sandals and I didn't feel like I needed them anymore because they made my feet dirty, they were uncomfortable, they were cheap, they made my feet hurt, blah, 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 blah. I had a lot of reasons to hate sandals. And for an entire year, I lived my life with not a single pair of sandals. And I found that I kept having outfits where I was like, wow, this outfit would be made so much better if I just had a sandal. So in 2022, I decided to be very intentional and buy like one pair of perfect sandals, which meant they had to be comfortable, they had to offer good support, they had to be made out of real leather so that they could be cobbled. And I also decided that nude would be the best color for like an all-around perfect sandal. Instead of having a brown pair and a black pair to go with different outfits, nude I felt like would really kind of go with everything in the spring and summertime. So that's how I picked these up. These are Birkenstocks, although inside it says Pablo, made in Portugal. I chose Birkenstocks because Birkenstocks are one of the best sandals to have cobbled. So I'm gonna have these for a very long time. They're made of real leather, they're easy to clean, and they're very comfortable and offer support in a way that sandals, in my opinion, have never done for me in the past. Additionally, no offense to people who love the look of the traditional Birkenstock, but I find them to not be the most attractive sandal that can go with like all of the type of outfits that I like to wear. Whereas this pair of sandals that I picked up, I feel like is. And I will say, I wore them all over Europe. They were pretty much the only shoe I wore on that 3-week trip. And my feet didn't hurt like at all. So if that's like not a testament to how comfortable they were with how much excess walking I was doing more walking than probably even like the average European that's just like kind of living their life, going to work, whatever. I was like traveling. I was busting my butt walking places. No blisters, super, super well-made shoes. They were very expensive to the tune of like $130, $140. But I will say if it's a, one pair of sandal that you have for like a long, long time, probably worth it in my opinion if you're struggling with sandals in the same way that I was, but definitely one of my best purchases of 2022 for sure. Next one is sort of categorical. The next one is a category similar to like the category of all of the travel expenses for that trip that I took in 2022, but that is everything related to my puppy, including the money that we had to spend to adopt our puppy. So I have a puppy, his name is Bailey, he's 9 months old at the time of me filming this video, and as I'm sure anybody who's raised a puppy with like intention will tell you, is there's a lot of training equipment and also like treats and toys and all kinds of other stuff that you have for such a limited period of time because they're growing so quickly. I would think of it as equivalent to like a crib or like baby clothes, where, you know, you buy clothes for your newborn baby and then all of a sudden they outgrow them and it's like, okay, what do I do with this? In my life with my puppy, that was like toys that he outgrew and then became chokeable, like choke hazards. It was the baby gates that we had in our house as we were teaching him how to like be a member of our family and not destroy furniture. It was crates that we used that he outgrew as we were crate training him. Additionally, there were vet bills and vaccination bills and water bowls and treats and toys and food and blah, 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 blah. I mean, there's a lot of expenses that come with a puppy. I think whether you do it kind of like bare bones or you do it a little bit more structured like me and my husband did. And even though a lot of that stuff we ended up thrifting, it still like was money spent, and money well spent in my opinion. My baby boy Bailey is a wonderful, wonderful dog. He's very well trained. He's a very sweet boy, such a cuddler. He's never, knock on wood, he has never chewed a piece of furniture, never chewed shoes. He was potty trained in about a week and a half. You know, he's just a really, really good boy. And I do think that part of that is him, but part of that is also us and the money and time we spent on that with all these different training tools. That being said, a lot of those training tools I did sell for like a discounted rate on Facebook Marketplace, but some of those things I also did donate and give away. So money well spent, 2022. I'm hoping that 2023 is less money spent now that he's like an adult dog, but we'll see. Okay, next on the list, and I'm going to include some footage here, is the flooring in my house. So when my husband and I first moved into this house, it was carpet and hardwood floor, but it was a very like fragile and cheap and chip away hardwood floor, and it was also, it wasn't even stained. It was like not epoxied. We're gonna call it stained because I don't exactly know what it was, but it was almost like a plastic film over each like hardwood plank that made it look like not hard. Anyway, it was a really, really dark wood, and then the carpet was just like really kind of nasty because the previous owners had like 4 dogs and seemingly never vacuumed this house once. That being said, a big priority when we first moved into this house was to get new flooring, and it was something that we budgeted for sort of in the first couple years of owning this home. And we especially wanted to get new floors before we got our puppy because we assumed, and were correct, that there were pee like stains in the old carpet. Additionally, we got, instead of hardwood floors, luxury plank flooring, meaning it's waterproof, really easy to clean, scratch resistant, all the good stuff that's good to have when you have a puppy. It looks really beautiful in my opinion. It's a very neutral brown that in certain lighting can look slightly gray, but we didn't want gray flooring. We really wanted something kind of a little bit more neutral, just so it's a little bit more timeless. I think it really goes with our house. My husband installed it, and he did an amazing, amazing job. I'm really, really impressed with him. But that did also save us quite a bit of money, so we really only had to spend money on like the tools and equipment to install it, in addition to the planks themselves. So all in all, I do think that it heavily brought the value of our property up, and I think it was a really good investment on top of being well money spent in 2022. Next on the list is my new camera. And if you're looking at this and you're like, Jennifer, it still looks like you're filming on your phone, that's because I am. I ordered a camera in November of 2022, and it is currently on back order. But I ordered that camera for this channel. I feel like I try to reinvest the money that I've been making on YouTube and other social media back into the channel so that I can continue to grow and also like improve my content and keep learning and all these really cool things. But I did finally get a new camera and all of the accessories. Altogether, it came out to just under $1,000, which is more than I thought, but also less than I thought if you consider all of like the accessories that you need when you get a new camera in order to like get footage from the camera to your computer and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, the camera, I can link it if you guys are at all interested, but in my opinion, it's really good for what type of content I create here on YouTube. and it doesn't have all of the bells and whistles that I don't really need. So for me, the value and what the camera is are really good. I haven't used it yet, so I guess I can't really say like it's the best money I've ever spent, but I feel like it's gonna be really good for this channel. So in my opinion, really good money that I spent in 2022, even though I don't have the camera yet. They say, I don't know if this is because of like COVID reasons, it seems like there's still COVID reasons causing shortages with different categories of like services and goods. But the camera is back ordered until I believe they said June of 2023. So it's still gonna be me and this phone for a little while. I did also get a new phone though, so it's probably a little bit better. But just know the camera's coming when it comes. But great money spent, in my opinion. And then the very last one, let me go ahead and grab it. Hold on one sec. Okay, and then the very last thing that I wanted to talk about as the best money I spent in 2022 is literally less than $15. And that is this pack of 3 lids for cans that get opened. So you know when you open a can, specifically it's been dog food, but you know when you open a can and then it's like just open. You know, you can either cover it with tinfoil or plastic wrap, and I don't even own plastic wrap. You can dispense it into a Tupperware. You can put like it was like an issue. And these, they're very, very simple. Like I said, they cost less than $15. I will have these linked in my Amazon storefront if you happen to need them. But on the inside, you can see there's 3 different sizes. They're very easy to clean, very simple design. I don't love the colors, but I also kind of don't care. And these have been amazing. This little pack of 3 has been everything I've needed for all of the cans in my life. Again, mostly dog food. But when you're refrigerating it, it also takes up like less space than maybe putting like a dish on top of the can like my husband and I were doing previously, or putting it in a separate Tupperware. It's just overall a really good and useful invention if you have open cans in your life. Highly recommend. And that is going to be it for today's video. Let me know in the comments down below, what is the single best thing that you spent money on in 2022, and what are you looking forward to spending money on in 2023? I'm always curious to know what you guys have to say and how alike and also not alike we are in this community. So go ahead and leave that comment down below, like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you're not already, and with all of that being said, I'll see you next week with another video. Bye!